Welcome to Absolute Nianema, the series that's supposed to be about cinema within Arknights, but considering this is our now third video on artificers within 3 months, we might as well rename this series to Absolute Devisema. Anyway, with the reveal of Nasti sparking a joy in my heart that I haven't felt since Tacticians are new, I'm committing to reviewing every artificer before her release in a non-group review fashion because group reviews like Abjuras are for when I hate myself. Anyway, for today's choice, we're running it back to the 5-star artificers with another non-Cinema Nights pick for the series with Catherine, although I'm going to pretend she's Cinema Nights coded as she is Stainless's grandmother. And, well, Stainless counts for Cinema Nights due to the ambient Synthesia loophole, so I'm throwing her through multiple loopholes to still say this is on topic for the series. It also helps that I am a Catherine fan, because she's not only an old person in a gacha game, which is always cool, but I just think she's just a really neat artificer welfare. Like, honestly, if it wasn't for Catherine, I wouldn't be so into this subclass to begin with, because sure, I would have become one through Roberta due to that Cinema Nights connection, but Catherine beat her to the punch, so I'm going to give her the credit for this instead. It also helps that Catherine is an artificer people are kind of down on, just like Alana, so I feel slightly more of a stronger connection with her as well, outside of welfare status, because, as you should know by now, I'm very big on welfare operators, as I think they fulfill a very important role in Arknights of filling gaps in newer players' rosters, and Catherine fills a very important gap, which is defensive buffing. Now, I'm not saying there's no welfare options for that, as there's dozens of them, such as Bison, the Bab shit, Science Alter, Wen King, Heidi, and so forth. But I think Catherine does it in a really interesting way, which is barrier application, which is very funny to think about because the only operators that apply a non-special barrier to allies on global are welfare options. Like, seriously, the only options in this specific niche are Tui with her S1, Papyrus through her talent, and Catherine with her devices, and I would argue Catherine is the best of this trio, as she is not as heavily limited as these, well, other two options. Like, T is not only being gatekept by her range, but also by the skill's SP cost, and while Papyrus is slightly better about this, as it's tied to her talent, which only requires her to heal a target, Catherine has the Artificer advantage of having Persuado global range compared to Papyrus's chain heal range. She still has limitations, which we will get to, but I still think within this barrier application niche, she is the best at it, which we'll also get into. But first, we need more buts in the sentence. So, but, we need to update this lovely and pointless graphic of artificer categories with Nasty's addition, so behold, the new pointless graphic, with Nasty now giving us a point of frame of what a 6-star artificer can be. I think it's now fair to categorize Stainless as an offensive artificer, with Nasty in her box with defensive artificers. Now, I could have reached this conclusion sooner if I wasn't too stupid to comprehend the fact that Stainless was clearly geared for offensive application via, well, his 3 offensive skills. But as previously established with Delana's video, I'm a stupid dumbass who thinks offensive artificers are equal to instructors, and I will continue to insist on such a fact, because I am a stupid dumbass. Also worth noting is that Nasti is also an artificer who can apply barrier, but we will get into that at the end of the video. Anyway, that's all I want to add, so let's talk about the defensive gilf artificer, so we can talk about the defensive MILF artificer when she comes out. This is our third video on artificers now, so I like to think that we'll know the spill I'm about to go on about her talent, so say it with me. Catherine's talents dictates how her devices work, how many she can carry, how many she can have deployed at once, and how long they last for. But, well, it's that Catherine breaks the mold a little on some of these little traits, which is very exciting. Anyway, her devices are known as crawler protection units, but I'm going to just be calling them crawlers. She can carry a max of 3 at E2, but can also have only 2 deployed at once. As for what her devices do, they apply a barrier equal to 22% of Catherine's max HP if we use her max pot numbers because welfare, with the barrier only refreshing itself if that talent hasn't been attacked in 5 seconds at a rate that is equal to 6% of Catherine's max HP per second. You may have noticed something that was lacking, which was the expiry date, because crawlers just don't die after a while. Unlike most artificer devices, like the only other artificer to do this is like Nasti with a SV. So I guess being older just means you know how to make devices that don't go kabooti. Anyway, this is an interesting design choice, mainly because they balanced it out in a really unique way, which is not giving Catherine a way to regain devices. The only way Catherine can gain devices is via retreating herself and redeploying her. And if you retreat her, you're also going to be retreating all her devices with her. This means you actually need to think about how you're going to be applying, well, your limited crawlers, especially considering you are hard limited to 3 of them per deployment. Of course, this is without the mod X, and I think if you're using Catherine, you should not only get the mod X for the quality of life improvements on mod 1, but you also need to go the full 9 yards and get her mod 3 as well. The mod 3 not only gives Catherine more max HP for the barrier, but also ups the barrier limit to 30% of her max HP, and I'm going to demonstrate how important this is with some maths, using my very average Catherine as my, well, look, I haven't used her a lot as well too, mainly because I'm being too busy using my Vice Wife as my defensive clutch, which I'm trying to fix by using Blemishine. Baby steps, people. Anyway, here's the math for a modless level 50 Catherine with and a mod XV level 50 Catherine on screen right now. I'm using my own as the basis. You may think these numbers are kind of small, but considering it's very easy to replenish these barriers, especially with S2, I think it's quite good for that is, well, what is effectively an extension to your health bar. I think if you're going to use Catherine, not investing in her mod 3 is the equivalent of handicapping yourself. So unless you're allergic to spending your module blocks, there's no reason to grab this, even if it's just for her mod 1. Her first skill is Fought by Iron, which is a passive skill, and just like Alana and Roberta's S1, not the reason I would use her, but it might have its applications regardless. Basically, she hands out a small attack and defense boost to herself and any operator that has barriers granted to them via her devices. And when I say small, I mean small. At skill level 7, it's only like 11% for both of those stats, with M3 only making it 15%. So it's minuscule. And if you remember our last video, you would rightfully think I'm about to go, well, get up all up in this skill's arse with numbers this small, but I'm letting it slide for 2 reasons. First, this is more of a side thing for Catherine, while for Swy it was her whole thing. And secondly, it doesn't fall into the same trap holes as Swy because it's still applying barrier and applying defense, making it decent at multiple things, and it's on all in like, well, without a real range limit, like unlike Swy, who has to rely on her S1 to make her singular buff more wider and stronger for a limited time. Doesn't change the fact it's still disappointing, but you know, I like to be Miss Positive so much, I even tried to put a sappy conclusion at the end of my full frontal assault that I called a Swy video. So, what's my cope for this skill? Well, use it on a ranged operator. Like, no, seriously, if you want to, like, if you use it on one of them in a stage with little or no range enemies, this can be a neat little buff to them, even if you're probably wasting that barrier on them, and you would be better off using Alana's S1 on them at that point. But fine, what's a niche that even Alana can't touch then with this skill? Well, the answer for that came with a skin for this event. Lynn is a fun pick because she wouldn't benefit from Alana's buff, and Lynn's crystal barrier takes priority over Crawler's barrier, meaning she can easily maintain this buff, meaning she can buff like the damage reflect on her crystal barrier, and if crystal breaks, then she can rely on the Crawler to keep her healthy until crystal reforms. It's nothing much, but it's just a cute little synergy, which I think is neat, and that's all you need to know. Her S2, Tempered by War, is the skill you will be using all the time, meaning because it's very softly removes the limitation on the barrier regeneration. Basically, Catherine will stop attacking to buffer max HP and her defense, while making it that the Crawler is pumping out 6% of her max HP per second as a barrier while the skill is active, although its max amount can't exceed the talent's limiter, although that's what the max HP increase is for. Going into numbers now, her skill level 7 makes it 55% max HP and a 15% defense buff, while her M3 makes it 70% and 30% respectively, and this buff only lasts 30 seconds, which is more than enough. I mean, think about it, 30 seconds of constantly regenerating 3 disposable HP for targets affected by crawlers is really good value, and arguably makes it better than Roberta in helping enemies tank damage most of the time. The only times I think Roberta is more helpful being in cases where the barrier is simply not big enough to tank it, which is very unlikely. Like, once again, taking out my average Catherine, I will now show you the maths for a skill level 7 Catherine with and without module, which is once again to illustrate how strong her mod X is for her, and now to make the point even stronger with M3 maths. If you didn't understand why this module was good before, you surely understand now. Tempered by War is, well, just really good, solid work, just like her. It does one thing, which makes Catherine into a meat wall so she can buff her bag application, and it does it exceptionally well. And I wouldn't ask anything more for her when it comes to, well, just her applications. Going through my thoughts while writing this all down, I reached an interesting conclusion. Catherine is sensible, which is kind of on theme for her character. I mean, think about it. She is from a working class background, and for all her life, all she has done is work hard to provide for her family, and with age does come wisdom. She doesn't need something fancy or gimmicky like the youngins. She just needs something sturdy and reliable that won't blow up, and that shows in her gameplay. She's very sensible and straightforward with no faffing about. You just put her down and she goes to work. Simple as that. You get what you paid for, and I love that about Catherine. And that, well, even when Nasti comes out, I don't think you should shelf Catherine at all. Like, yes, Nasti's site supervisors can apply a stronger level of barrier, especially once enforcement is activated to give Nasti her own huge barrier. But like, these things are as reliable as any other artificer devices, as they can self-destruct. Probably the balance out the fact these devices will also be applying Sanctuary passively and generating SP when activated. I just think when it comes down to which one you prefer, it really just comes down to which one you prefer in this case. Like, let's be honest, like, do you want the artificer who can give you a bit of everything across the board, or do you want the gilf that will always be there for you, although won't be as able to give you much extra on the side? It's just really a question of the power versus reliability, and I just think, like Roberta, Cavan has a powerful and reliable niche that no one's going to take from her, no matter how much extra stuff you're going to stick on that, because let's be honest, there's always going to be room for just permanent, constant barrier application, especially when it comes in the form of a welfare.